Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. And now I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free and each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 161 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom. Only assholes drink Mr. Pibb haggis.
You know, I had a quote, but I'm going to actually have to say the Mr. Pibb thing. I'll take Mr. Pibb or Dr. Pepper, whatever's available. They're my two favorites, so screw you, Tanner.
Second, writer, actor, and director, Kyle. And by anybody, I mean any swinging dick, fine.
I'm going to piggyback off of Tom. I'm a real Shasta Pepper fan myself, or the Walmart version, which I believe was like Professor Pepperface or something. So I will
Pepperface.
Make mine Professor Pepperface.
All right.
It's all good.
Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel. Tweakers don't sleep. They just tweak. Rowald.
Call it. Call it.
That's an awesome Terminator impression, Gabe.
Thanks. I'm not as sexy as, Javier.
You have the same haircut.
Ayo.
I wish I had that much hair.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios, Andrew. A lot of people come in here without any clothes on. Zumwalt.
Come hell or high water. That's a line. He says it in the movie.
Yep, I got it. All right, let's poke the monkey. Find out what we're discussing this month.
Ladies and gentlemen, hounded hunters and bank robbing brothers, welcome to the main event. Tonight, we're combing the desert for sensational cinema. Two dry and dusty dramas try to escape with their ill-gotten gains. Which will cash in and which will go bust? In the first quarter, from 2007, written by Cormac McCarthy, with Joel and Ethan Cohen, directed by Joel and Ethan Cohen, starring Tommy Lee Jones, Javier Bardem, and Josh Brolin. No Country for Old Men. In the second quarter, from 2016, written by Taylor Sheridan, directed by David McKenzie, starring Jeff Bridges, Ben Foster, and Chris Pine. Hell or High Water.
All right, well, No Country for Old Men, I feel like has come up in a lot of discussions recently, and I'm not meaning on the podcast, just in general for me. It seems to have had a resurgence with some of the younger members of some of our film crews that I've been on. And Hell or High Water, I always, whenever I hear them say No Country for Old Men, I'm like, well, check out Hell or High Water. I'm not saying it's the same, but it's kind of similar for me. I mean, both of them take place in West Texas, and I think they're just great Westerns without the usual horseshit and gunsmoke. It's the modern Western. But enough about me. Let's find out what you guys think. Let's start with our first round, which is writing.
Yeah, so talking about how these are so similar in the Western, modern day Western, it was interesting looking at some of the images because it was hard to tell which movie it was from. So it'd be interesting to see which movie is this based on just the images, because there's some pretty close ones, which I thought was kind of neat. So let's talk about Hell or High Water, Tyler Sheridan. One thing I found really interesting about him right off the bat is he has done quite a few writings for other Westerns, more what you consider modern day Westerns. He also was a director for Yellowstone. So he has his fingers around inside that Western genre pretty well. And those are just a couple of them. There's quite a few more that he's been in and out. And then before we get into the deep writing, No Country for Old Men, of course, is the Coen brothers, who have, I mean, holy cow, the amount of writing they've done and the films that they have pushed out that are just amazing. And even when you get into just some of the Western, like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, True Grit, No Country for Old Men, Inside Llewyn Davis. I mean, these are really, really good films, and they're just really known for that kind of stuff. And then the other gentleman who I was not as much familiar, I didn't realize that Cormac McCarthy was even a writer on this. So I learned something. Woo!
It's based on a Cormac McCarthy book.
Oh, see,
Correct.
I did not know that. So, yeah. So like I said, I learned something. So I thought that was kind of cool. So let's talk about No Country for Old Men. We'll stick with the same movie and just kind of go. Some of I would say the writing of the dialogue for both of these movies is so well done that there is a lot of difficulty in choosing who had the better dialogue, and maybe that comes down to more acting of who delivered it better. But there is some great lines. There's some really good quips. There's even a little bit of what you would consider maybe even humor. Javier is just a creepy freaking dude in this film and can deliver lines stale and yet psychotic and yet peaceful all at the same time. And it's just the simplest and weirdest stuff that he talks about. And the moments that he has them, it just really shows off exactly who he is. And it's how he says it and what he is saying that mix together to really make that character. And I felt that was pretty powerful. Hell or High Water. There are some pretty, I would say, funny lines that are like goofy, but they fit within what they're doing. I would say that some of the best were at the very end, when he's up actually on the cliffs and he's getting ready to shoot. That whole scene is so intense and they do it well. And the dialogue for it is simple and yet very effective. And I really, really enjoyed that entire scene with the shootout. And then when he finally actually ends up going to his house, and that whole exchange on the porch is just, it's the icing on the cake. It's gold. Now, what I found very fascinating between the two movies was they both end relatively abruptly, and they just, it's not that it's an open ending, but they leave questions. The viewer gets to, I guess, decide what potentially could happen next with some of these characters, and I find that to be pretty fascinating, and I enjoyed that tremendously for both of the movies. So yeah, I'll quit rambling for my first group.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me I'm terrible.
Do you want to go ahead, Tom?
Yeah, I think, Hell or High Water, it does have some really great lines. That line about, when I'll be the guy you're thinking about in your last days in your the nursing home. It was, it's like an Ed Sheeran lyric where you're just like, God damn it, why didn't I ever think of using that? That's a really great line. And I thought the last scene in Hell or High Water, the kind of the prologue scene was also really well written. It's real subtle, and I guess it's not too subtle, but the part about the pigs are back in the garden and the feral hogs are tearing this place up something fierce, and it's this really kind of this little quiet dig that he takes at Hamilton, and I think then later on when they're talking, they're just having the last little bit of chat back and forth about, if I do cross paths again, maybe I'll bring you peace, or like, well, maybe I'll bring you peace. And it's this very dark, but they're saying with a smile on their face, but it's this very dark exchange. And I thought it was really great. And Taylor Sheridan does, especially with these Westerns and Yellowstone, and he does a really good job of setting up these confrontations so that we cannot wait to see these two characters finally get together.
And it's tense.
It is tense. And like I swear to God, they're going to wind up killing each other. And he wants you to believe that, and he's been building that up so that you'll buy it. And the stakes are so high at the end, and he does it really, really well. There's a lot of other stuff that he does not so well, but we won't really get into that. No Country for Old Men. It's that classic Coen brothers of characters are in this world that they don't understand, and they use that as a classic. Coen brothers use that in almost all their films, are about these people that are just, it's like a fish out of water, but they don't.
Who wears black in the desert?
It's complicated, and it's one of the things I love about them, because they really do. They tell very unique stories, and the people that it's like, oh, there's no original movie. I'm like, we'll find some Coen Brothers movies because they're original. Yeah. So those are the big parts. I do think it was interesting that Thanos and Captain Kirk both got shot in the exact same spot in the hip, and kind of they both suffered the same injury. And the other thing is, I feel really bad for any housekeeping staff that was involved in No Country for Old Men, because they destroyed just about every hotel room in West Texas.
Well, and Tom, to your point, that last scene in Hell or High Water, even before they said, did the exchange about bringing each other peace, it was even after he invited him over to his house that he was renting in the middle of town. It was just a small little place, but you can come by anytime you'd like. And it was just so calm, and so, again, it's that tension that was built, I think, partially with that dialogue that made you feel like at any point these two would gun each other down right then and there.
Yeah.
And it's just there.
And both of them having lost, like their partner, basically. Yes. And it is a really, as far as payoff scenes, it does really, really well. And a lot of times scenes like that, they leave it on the end. You're like, oh, are they going to wind up killing each other? And I'm probably 99% sure that these two are not going to cross paths again. And one of them's not going to sneak out and kill the other one. I really think this is where their story ends, and they wind up just, old men with a lot of regrets.
and that is what I was talking about. That's the beauty, I think, of both of these stories. There's that ending where if the viewer wants to imagine this magical thing where they end up shooting each other, or maybe they end up growing old together, who knows?
Yeah.
And the story's done, but yet you know that viewers can carry it on. And I think that really adds something to both of these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to jump in here quick because No Country for Old Men is based on a book by Cormac McCarthy, who passed away in 2023. He is by a mile my favorite author, and he's written books like The Road and Blood Meridian, which has been deemed unfilmable. They're trying to film it again. This is like the fourth time they're trying to make Blood Meridian. But anyways, you guys talked a lot about the dialogue, and I agree with you on most of it. Some of it's very clever and very telling. And we get to directing. We'll talk about a lot of the visual ways they tell the story, because I think they're interesting in both these films. I want to talk about the sort of plot and the major twists in these movies. Spoiler alert, I guess. Hell or High Water has a conceit in it that I don't think I've seen before, which is steal a little to save a lot, which I thought was really interesting of an idea where they just have to come up with a little bit of money so that they can get themselves out of a hole and make a bunch of money. And they're doing it by robbing the bank that is selling away their property, and also getting that bank to co-sign on the paperwork to make it legal. So I thought that was super interesting. And I loved some of the cop work in the middle where they're sitting around trying to figure out the next bank they're going to hit. And they're basically camped out alongside. The dialogue between the brothers is good. I love Ben Foster. I think he's a really good actor. Chris Pine as well. Jeff Bridges had a little bit of mush mouth in this movie. Sometimes he's prone to that. But yeah, I thought the dialogue were both great. No Country for Old Men is a pretty quiet movie for most of it. But the dialogue that is delivered is, I mean, chef's kiss. Anton Chigurh's lines, although there are not many, are haunting and terrifying. And Josh Brolin is like this determined / cocky, won't back down kind of character, which I love, but he doesn't know that he's in over his head. And I just thought the writing of the characters was spot on. And the twist of No Country for Old Men being that basically the protagonist changes 3/4 of the way through the movie. You have this unexpected event where the person you've been following for the whole movie, and I don't know, choose whether or not you're rooting for them, is killed in an off screen, and then you just see the aftermath of it, and now you're following a new protagonist for the final third or fourth of the movie. That was handled expertly by the Coen brothers. And it's a major stumbling block for a lot of people in the books, but I think it's brilliant because it's so unexpected but inevitable, right? And they say your ending should feel surprising but unavoidable. So you're like, yeah, you feel for a lot of this movie, there's no way he's getting away with this. And when he doesn't, you're surprised, but also there's a feeling of like, oh, of course. But they did a great job switching that up. And it is no easy feat adapting Cormac McCarthy. He's one of those people that Hollywood people love. And there have been some great adaptations of his work and at least one very poor one. So keep James Franco away from Cormac McCarthy, and let's get the Coen brothers to do the rest of his movies, of his books.
Okay, I don't have a lot of time left, but I just wanted to say that I felt like Hell or High Water was kind of like a modern Robin Hood in the West kind of movie, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And I thought it was interesting that really there aren't any human bad guys in Hell or High Water. The bad guy in Hell or High Water is really the banks. They are really the thieves. They are really the ones that they're fighting against. And so I felt that was kind of interesting. And one of my favorite things about No Country for Old Men is This is one of my favorite things in movies. Is only have dialogue when it's necessary, and that dialogue should not describe what you are doing, or it should not tell you what's happening. It should enhance what you are seeing in the film. And there's such large portions of the movie where there's really not a lot of dialogue. But when there is dialogue, it's haunting and meaningful and really amazing. And I've always liked that about films. Show, don't tell. And then when there is dialogue, it enhances what you're already seeing. And I think No Country for Old Men really does that in an exceptional way.
All right. You guys have anything else to add for writing?
These were both very well written.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough round.
I agree. Both of these
this is going to be a tough bout. And I think it's one of those ones where when we get to the end and we pick a winner, it's not really going to be representative of like the quality of these films. They're both such great films. You know, it's going to be like, well, we picked this one because we had to pick a winner.
Well,
they're both really good.
And honestly, that happens to us a lot, right? Like we watch two very well done movies, or even two mediocre movies that are still enjoyable, and it's like, watch them both, but here's the winner.
Yeah, even if it's lopsided,
right?
In our vote, yeah.
Okay, Andrew.
I'm gonna go for No Country for Old Men.
Okay, and Gabe.
God, it is tough. I love Jeff Bridges' like banter with his partner. God, it was so awful, but I laughed so much. But I really, really love how dialogue is used in No Country for Old Men. It's meaningful and potent, and I think I'll have to go with No Country for Old Men.
All right. Kyle.
No Country for Old Men.
All right. And Tom.
Oh, I wish I could split my vote and give dialogue to No Country, or to Hell or High Water, and the story to No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
Is really how I would do it. But I'm gonna, the nursing home line is just sticking with me, so I'm gonna go with Hell or High Water.
All right.
Just think, dialogue is a little bit like writing, and your acting is a little bit about like story.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you that.
No Country for Old Men will get some points with me tonight. That's for sure.
Contrary to their usual process, directors Joel Coen and Ethan Coen did not write the script with actors in mind for the characters. In fact, the only actor I believe that shows up in this movie from any other movies they've done is Stephen Root. Screenwriter Taylor Sheridan drew much of his inspiration from the TV miniseries Lonesome Dove from 1989, having earlier read Larry McMurtry's 1985 Pulitzer Prize winning novel on which the series was based. So both movies kind of based on novels. But let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
This is going to be a tough round too. There's a lot of great acting in both of these movies. Javier Bardem is creepy and haunting. And I think we often associate him with being, like suave and sexy. But he is really frightening in this. I think, I think that Tommy Lee Jones is good. I felt like he was a little bit more subdued than what we're used to seeing Tommy. I think of Tommy Lee Jones in like The Fugitive and that kind of thing, where he's kind of like he's cocky and over the top. but he was a little more subdued and he was enjoyable to watch. Josh Brolin is good. He plays this really stoic, action, not words, kind of masculine kind of character. I just felt like the acting overall from the main characters in No Country for Old Men was really strong. I like Jeff Bridges in Hell or High Water. I agree that he did get a little mush mouthed a little bit at times, but I really enjoyed his character, and I thought he was really good. Ben Foster is fantastic. I really like Ben Foster. I've liked him in everything I've ever seen him in, and I'd like to see him have a chance in more of a leading role. Have you guys seen him in a leading role in anything where he's kind of like a main character instead of like a supporting character? Anybody?
I think he has a fairly big role in the World of Warcraft movie, but I don't know if that's what you want to watch to see Ben Foster.
Offhand, it doesn't sound like it, but but maybe. I really like him. I think he's really fantastic, and he really plays these kind of like he's almost kind of like a lovable douchebag. Like he's he's kind of an asshole, but you really kind of care about him and what he's doing, and he's really good at that. He's really good at that. I've never been a huge fan of Chris Pine personally, but he's really good in this too. And kind of hearkening back to the writing portion of it, he's kind of the hero in this. He has to be really likable for this to work, for him to get away with these crimes, and I think he pulls that off really well. He's really likable as a character, and you want him to succeed, even though he's technically kind of a criminal. But again, I think we feel like maybe he's not really the criminal in the movie. Man, it's going to be hard to pick on this one. I think there's a lot of really strong acting in both of these movies. It's going to be tough. What do you guys think?
Chris Pine makes this is the first time I had seen this movie, by the way, Hell or High Water. I've seen No Country many times. Chris Pine makes a really good, gruff, brooding, quiet cowboy that is super likable. Like, he does a really good job at that role. I mean, look at some of the other stuff that he's done. He's played what we'd consider a space cowboy as Kirk, but that gruff, dirty, kind of brooding cowboy kind of thing, he does it really good. And I look at the scene where they pull him over, and he's just kind of, real, almost charming, and yet at the same time just kind of like, whatever, just let's keep going kind of thing. He does it really, really well. So I'm going to say the same things everyone else has said about Javier, because you said that he's mostly plays sultry sexy. I would say that he did a really good job of playing a sultry sexy psychopath. Because
Sure.
he made being a psychopath really sexy. Like, I don't know how to say that any better. Like, he's just, and the stuff, like even the stuff with the clerk, that conversation he has, it's just kind of all over the place.
And that's why I was talking about, like, the dialogue and the writing. That scene where he has that interaction with that guy at the gas station, it's just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the one he has with Woody Harrelson, like, it's kind of just all over the place, but at the same time it has a point. And that's what's so nuts about it. And he delivers it so well.
It's like this creepy kind of like
sexy
calm,
psychopath. Sexy
calm,
psychopath.
monotone. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when I was thinking about how to describe, because I was talking to my wife about this, because I've read the book and was talking to her about Anton Chigurh, and I think the movie does a really interesting point. When he is in his element, chasing, shooting people, threatening people, terrorizing people, he almost seems normal compared to when you see him alone, where he looks like an alien. Sometimes he just sits in a car and he looks so uncomfortable, like he doesn't know what the car does or what to do. Or there are just these moments where he sits and he looks like he's not at home in this world. And then you put a shotgun in his hand and he's chasing somebody. And that is like when what you would call his real side or his whatever his version of humanity comes out. It's a really interesting choice because when they shoot him alone, he always has like a stoic face. He looks slightly confused sometimes, and he just looks like he doesn't know what to do with himself when he's alone with no one around. But when he's threatening and hunting people, he's like incredibly enigmatic and sort of charismatic. Yeah, right. Like he's in his element.
So can I ask? So I would say that the best comparison to that is when he's drinking the milk, looking at the TV.
Yes, he just doesn't. He looks like he doesn't belong in this world, like an alien who just found milk. And it happens a couple times too, where he's like sitting in the car alone, where he just has these quiet moments, and you're like, "Is he awake? Like, what's going on?"
And they flip the camera even in that scene.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
No. So yeah, Chris Pine, Ben Foster, I think are both really good. They have this weird interplay of like trying to deal with their masculinity, which is, I imagine, a big thing in like the West Texas this time of, I don't know, just maybe a comment on that. Jeff Bridges, I think, is fairly good, but again, I think he's got some mushmouth problems, which is an issue sometimes. And I do like his partner. I like a lot of the people around them. I did not realize this because I watched Hell or High Water first, but the belligerent waitress at the steak restaurant is also the check-in clerk at Josh Brolin's first motel in No Country for Old Men. Yeah.
Really?
The what don't you want lady? Yeah, she is also the one who gets him to check into room 38 and gives him the map and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Same lady. Pretty crazy. But
I didn't put that together.
Yeah. I didn't either till I watched the movie. But I think Josh Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones, if you're going to do a movie where you're going to have limited dialogue and you're just going to study their faces for expressions and try to get the story that way, probably two of the best actors you could choose. I'd watch Tommy Lee Jones read a phone book. Like, he doesn't have to talk. I think his face is so expressive. I know it's usually read a phone book, but I'd watch him just or listen to him read a phone book, but I'd watch him just read a phone book. I think it'd just be interesting. He's got such an expressive face and so much expression in his eyes, especially at the end. I'm really growing to love Josh Brolin. I think he's amazing in this movie. I think all of the supporting actors they put around them are great. The only person I think is a little over the top is the mother-in-law, who I only remember from Donnie Darko as the woman who questions your commitment to sparkle magic. But I thought the acting in No Country for Old Men is pretty much beyond reproach. I don't have any notes. Hell or High Water, I don't have many notes other than to tell Jeff Bridges to enunciate or spit out whatever it is he's eating. But Ben Foster, I think, nails this role. Chris Pine nails it as well. The struggle you see play across his face a lot when he is coming to grips with what he's doing, and especially after people get killed, and like, I think he has a great reaction that way. I think these movies are both very well acted.
I think I don't know, you guys kind of hit on everything. I think they are both really well done. I think you can there's no question that, and we'll get to directing, but there's no question that Joel and Ethan Coen are far superior directors than David Mackenzie. I mean, it's not even a contest. Just their careers. We'll talk about the movies themselves in a little bit here, but what I think is really telling is seeing actors, really amazing actors, when they put their trust in directors. And I think that's the biggest difference I see in the acting between Hell and High Water and No Country for Old Men is that, the acting, that all of the actors in No Country for Old Men are all in. They're here for it, and you can tell that they have that trust in Joel and Ethan. Whereas Hell or High Water, it's really well done, but it seems like there's almost there's a layer. There's a layer missing that No Country for Men, you could sit there and just watch all of the performances down to just the smaller bit players. And just there's so much going on with all the actors in No Country, and you don't quite get that for Hell or High Water. But again, like you guys said, this is a situation where we're talking about like a really, really great movie versus a masterpiece. And it's tough. It's tough. So, and Kelly Macdonald. Sorry, I got to talk about Kelly Macdonald because I absolutely love her. She's great. Been watching her since Trainspotting. She's almost 30 years ago. So, it's been fun watching her find these roles, like Boardwalk Empire and Brave with Pixar, and yeah, it's been a really cool trip, and to see her in a Coen Brothers movie and drop her Scottish accent for West Texas is very impressive.
I don't think I've ever seen her give a bad performance. Now that you mention that,
she's amazing.
She's really good.
She's really good. She's like someone I like to like seek out when I find out she's in something. And as far as Jeff Bridges, it's funny. It's like he's all mushmouth and stuff like that. There's not a single word he said that I didn't catch though.
No, yeah. He's right on the edge.
He is right on that. And you're just like, if I'm not paying attention, I'm not going to catch it. But if you're watching the movie, he says it, you're like, I can't believe I'm understanding this. It's like that thing on Facebook where they take all the letters in the middle and rearrange them, but you can you can read it. Like, how did I know that? How did I understand that?
Sometimes he conjured to me the dude with a mouthful of White Russian when he's like trying to talk with a White Russian in his mouth. That's what it made me think of.
But I still really enjoyed his character.
Oh yeah.
Whether he was mealy mouthed or not, I really enjoyed his character and his banter with his partner.
Yeah,
that's one of the things that that's one of the things that I felt like. Well, and I think it's a point of these movies. I think there's certain things in these movies that are kind of left unresolved or unpleasantly resolved. I was not pleased with how his relationship with his partner ended up being resolved, because I felt like he always had this banter with his partner, and he was kind of insulting him the whole time. But it was a friendly kind of ribbing. And I'm not sure his partner really fully got there to understand that, before he was taken away.
No, and there's that, we've all known people in our lives that are just, you roll your eyes and bite your tongue and just the clock's running out. Like, I just got to put up with this for one afternoon,
right,
and just keep the peace. And then,
right,
and it's over. And, obviously that's not the way they thought that was going to end.
Yeah, and I think that says something. Maybe I'm going back a category, but that says something about the writing too. I think there are unresolved, and maybe in some ways unsatisfactorily unresolved things in these. But I really laughed a lot at Jeff Bridges' performance when he was ribbing his partner, because I don't know, I just thought it was really well done. He really pulled that off well.
But having stuff in film, a lot of times, we'll say, oh, well, they didn't close this loop. They didn't close that loop. But also it could be more real life. I mean,
and I think a lot of that was
don't get a chance to do that in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't
I think a lot of that was very intentional. Yeah.
And you get more of that gut punch.
Yes.
As a viewer.
Yeah.
With these characters that you're like, I enjoy watching these, and then immediately there's just no resolution between them, and you're just like,
Right.
Yeah, it's like Game of Thrones,
Which is why that scene while he's climbing up is just so intense and so well done, because it's that immediate moment after that loss.
Right.
All right.
Sorry,
no,
Mike.
No, I brought it up. I brought it up after the clock.
Yeah, we're getting off topic too, though.
All right, Gabe,
Mark.
Start us off with the voting.
Oh man, this is tough. Again, this is one of those things where I feel like it's going to be lopsided, but it's not really that lopsided. I'm going to go with No Country for Old Men. I think Javier Bardem is just fantastic. It's great acting all around.
All right, Kyle.
Yeah, No Country for Old Men. I wouldn't have argued if there were like 3 nominations for Best Actor from this movie. And Javier Bardem won an Academy Award for playing the psychopath. So that's my vote.
Tom?
Yeah, I can't say what I said and then not give it to No Country for Old Men.
All right. And Andrew?
I'm going to give it to No Country for Old Men, except I don't want it to be lopsided because Hell or High Water deserves at least 1 vote for acting in this category, because there was some amazing performances. So they're both amazing, but I'm gonna throw them a bone. Hell or High Water.
Oh, okay. I had it marked differently.
Yeah, Ben Foster.
I want to at least give them Hell or High Water a bit of love, because it's right on the line.
Understood.
Yeah, great performances.
Even though Chris Pine played the younger brother of Ben Foster, both actors were actually born in 1980, but were 2 months apart from each other. Pine was born on August 26th, and Foster was born on October 29th.
Oh.
Javier Bardem became the first Spanish actor to win Best Actor in a Supporting Role at the Academy Awards, Screen Actors Guild, BAFTA Awards, Golden Globe Awards, and Critics' Choice Awards for his role in the film.
As a sultry, sexy psychopath.
And you guys were talking about it, and I didn't know if you guys would bring it up, but according to a January 2018 article in Business Insider, a group of psychiatrists studied 400 movies and identified 126 psychopathic characters. They chose Javier Bardem's portrayal of Anton Sugar as the most clinically accurate portrayal of a psychopath in a movie.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
Isn't that terrifying?
Is that something you should be proud of?
Absolutely.
I think as an
You're
actor,
the best
yes.
psychopath I've ever met.
Yeah, as an actor, I mean,
hell yeah.
That's like saying, in Rain Man, him being able to play a autistic savant and being able to sell that to where people thought he really was autistic savant.
Right.
That speaks volumes. We know others like Daniel Day-Lewis that get into so much character development that they just, there are frequent actors out there. Dustin Hoffman's, Daniel Day-Lewis's, Robin Williams's, Jim Carrey's, that really get into their characters so much that they deliver great performances.
Yep.
Javier obviously knows what he's doing.
All right, let's move on to our third round. Directing.
All right, let's get into it. Start with Hell or High Water. Let's just start from a cinematography point of view. I think it's beautifully shot. The car chases, escapes, whatever you want to call them, I think are very well done and interesting. The bank robberies are kind of more realistic than you usually see in a bank robbery scene. It's not hyper violent generally, and there's a lot of things that go wrong and improvisation and stuff they have to do. But I love a good bank robbery scene because I feel like a lot of movies do them wrong. And these are really just two guys knocking over mom and pop banks, and I think they do a perfect job there. Some of the interplay between like what they do with the money, going to the casino, sitting around with it, etc., that got a little bit boring, but at least they spiced it up with some stuff going on in the peripheries of that. But I think, there's camera movement and beautiful shots of the Texas landscape, which I think is like instant free production value, because I think it's just so gorgeous, and it takes you to a place and a feeling that you can't get from pretty much anywhere else in the world. Is that Southwest feeling of like desolation, being baked under the sun, like just nothingness stretched on forever, can evoke a lot of emotions. I like the way they shot a lot of the dialogue, just the two shots and back and forth. I liked that it kept things moving a bit, but wasn't overly flashy or anything like that. I would call it very competently directed. No Country for Old Men. I'm going to try not to fawn too much about the Coen brothers, but one of the golden rules of cinema is show, don't tell, and I don't know anyone who does it better than the Coen brothers. This movie has very limited dialogue, but you're never lost. You always know exactly what's going on, and there's so many moments where a character is just looking at something or pondering something, and you feel like you're in their head. You understand what's going on, and that is such a trick to directing to keep you there, because you never pause and go, wait, what's going on? No one's talking, no one's doing anything. You're always there with them. They never leave you hanging. They guide you through the movie, and that's an incredible feat. I do want to heap a little praise on Hell or High Water. It had a bunch of tiny character movements that I found super interesting, like Jeff Bridges sitting down and always taking his hat off and hanging it off his boot, or the way they would pull down their masks every time. Like, I thought those little character things really helped bring you into the scene, like the way they chose to do some of those things. And they just had little character ticks and things like that. For No Country for Old Men, I think one of the hardest things to do in a movie is to tell a character, be still, like just sit and look like you're pondering something. Or when Josh Brolin's hunting, like look down the barrel of a gun. We're going to hold on you for like 30 seconds. Just pretend you're hunting. And it's never awkward or goofy. You really believe that's just him doing it, right? And the worst thing you can do is remind me that I'm watching a movie. And the Coen brothers do a great job of getting you into that movie and then just never letting you get out of it. You're in it for the whole ride. And they show characters struggling with their emotions a lot, thinking about things to do, what they should be doing. They're great at framing them for that and creating a feeling and a mood in the room and the lighting that give you an idea of what's going on in that character's mind. So yeah, they are masters of their craft. I don't think there's really any debate about that at this point, and I thought they just did an incredible job. I will say for Hell or High Water, they got great performances, I think, out of Chris Pine and Ben Foster, and they are really the through line and what carried the movie, and their relationship between each other, I think, is great. So they did an excellent job, holding the meat of that acting together between those two characters.
Yeah, this one of the things that when you talked about show don't tell, when Chigger comes out of Carla Jean's house and we're across the street watching the scene, and you don't know whether or not that he what the coin toss result was and what happened, and he just like checks the bottom of his shoes, and it's just like, oh well, she's dead. And it's it is and that's something like when I'm talking to young filmmakers, and I need an example of a show don't tell, just like show the last 30 seconds of that scene and him walking out, and just this is an example of a perfect example of that. And I mean, and what can be said for Roger Deakins? The guy is just.
Oh, jeez.
How does he only have 2 Oscars? I know it just. There's people who go their entire lives trying to get an Oscar. How the hell does Deakins only have 2? I mean, it's awful. He should be. It should be like. He should have a dozen.
The low light cinematography in that, it's just.
It's
fantastic.
It's absolutely. And it doesn't get muddled or lost. Yeah.
Oh no, that's fantastic.
Yeah. It's such beautiful stuff. Everything is like a painting. And just, I mean, the Coen brothers do such a great job just delivering their story in a very compelling way that on paper, you'd probably turn it off. You just like, the lack of action, but their direction and their use of the camera to drive the story forward and their ability to get the absolute best performances out of every single actor on set it's incredible. It really is. I envy them. I am interested to see what happens now that they aren't directing together anymore. But I think, maybe they can make twice as many movies now.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if production companies just got used to looking at a Coen Brothers script and being like, dude, there's no dialogue for like 10 pages. I don't even understand what's going on. And they're like, no. Just trust us. We got this. We know what we're doing. you will know the entire story from these 10 pages. And it's 100% true. Like there are so many scenes and they drive the story with imagery, facial expressions. I think Kyle also mentioned lighting. Tom, I think you mentioned lighting. Like there are so many of the basic, everyone talks about you need all these $1 million pieces of equipment to tell a story, and you don't. You just need to be able to use the basics sometimes to tell a story in a very simplistic way, and they do such a good job at doing that and making it look difficult. And to be fair, it is like it's hard to make sure that you're doing the right things at the right times, and they've really worked that dial. I don't know a better way. I mean, they just really have. It's just beautiful. Even their big, wide shots. When Javier tries to get a jump from the guy from the chicken farmer, that shot when they first show him. And they have the two trucks there front, and it's this just beautiful wide shot. It's such a, I mean, like, I'm hoping the cinematographer had help with some of that, but just to walk into that scene and be like, because most people you would cut right into them at the truck, talking, having the conversation, but they build this establishing shot that really didn't do anything but drove the story and drove that scene into where it was. And I thought it was very, very nice. Very well done.
Yeah, Mike, where do we want to talk about sound design? Do we want to save that for the next?
You could do it for overall.
I'll save it for that.
Because we do like visual effects
I
and
think
music
that's
and stuff.
also important. That's an important part of the directing category is a sound design. But yeah, I think there's this, and the sound design really drives No Country for Old Men. It tells a lot of the story for us, and it allows them, to kind of be more minimalistic and kind of sparse with their directing. But yeah, it's going to be really hard to go against the Coen brothers in this category because it's really masterful directing. They really have good I don't want to use the word control, but that's the only one that's coming to mind right now. They have really good control over the cinematography, their actors, their story. They really are in charge of how this all plays out.
Synergy. That's the word you were looking for. They have synergy.
Maybe, yeah. They really have. They are really on top of all the aspects of the whole film. No, that's not to speak negatively of Hell or High Water. I think it's a really well directed film. I think it's really well done. There are all kinds of great aspects of that film. One that comes to mind is that opening scene. That's a long take. It's a really great long take at the beginning of that movie, where they show the teller pulling in, and then they show, the brothers coming up, and then it goes around, and you see this really distinctive building with the 3 crosses on it across the street, and you really get a sense of like space, where they are and what's going on. And it's really coordinated really well, because then she's like smoking her cigarette, and then she goes to the door, and then the brothers show up with their guns, and that's a really nicely coordinated shot at the beginning of the film. And there's a lot of really there's beautiful cinematography in Hell or High Water as well. It's hard to go against Roger Deakins, but there is some really beautiful cinematography in it. I think, I don't know, it's going to be hard. It's really hard. These are both really well done films, and I think they're both competently directed.
Well, and even in Hell and High Water, we were talking about earlier that the final, I guess you would say showdown, the climax, the tension of the movie on the porch that pays off, but doesn't pay off the way people think it's going to. The way
both of these films are like that. There's this kind of ending. It's not a Hollywood ending. It's the kind of ending where you almost,
it's real.
Yeah, it's almost too real sometimes. It's maybe almost disappointing. Because what's the deal with Tommy Jones saying, "Then I woke up and then it ends"? It's like, it's a little disappointing, maybe.
They could have gone to black during the middle of it.
What's that?
They could have gone to black in the middle of it.
Well,
in the middle of the story.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Sopranos ending. It's like we don't really know what happened, but yeah.
Well, I was just the Hell or High Water, that ending shot. I just love the way that everything is staged, so that way, for the most part, you can always see the two of them talking. You can always just see Chris Pine's gun. His hat shifts a couple of times on his foot, and then at the very end, when he finally gets up and starts walking away, the camera is only showing each individual until he says, "Hey, by the way, I live in this small house in downtown." That is the first time they shift back to having them both there, and then it pulls out to that wide shot, and it conveys that scene at the same time that there is that dialogue and that tension going on, and it's just so well directed to be able to have that switch, because it's pushing that visual of the show don't tell with this amazing moments going on, and I like that. That was what I really found fascinating with that director. That he could pull that off.
It's almost kind of a long take at the end too.
It almost is.
Where he gets in his car, and you see him getting into his car, and you see Chris Pine's character on the porch, and then the car takes off and goes down the road, and then the camera lowers down to the grass or whatever. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, that's kind of a long take there too.
I love that ending.
Well executed. Yeah, those are really well executed shots.
Well, do you guys have anything else to add?
What is the expectation of the Coen brothers separation? What is the expectancy time of that to stay in the separated moment?
I don't know. I mean, Ethan went on and did Driveway Dolls, and Joel went and did Macbeth. So I mean, they're kind of off doing their own stuff now, and you really can't get more different than those two movies. So
that's true.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you watch both of those movies, you see Coen brothers in there, and it's really fascinating is that you actually kind of see the two of them working on their own, and there's this this like moment of clarity where you go like, oh, that's what Ethan brought to the movies, and that's what Joel brought to the movies. And you actually get a better understanding of how they work together by watching them work apart. I'm excited for it. Like I said, if we get twice as many Coen Brothers movies, let's do it.
All right.
Is there a feud? Do we know?
Why are they?
Can we mend something for them?
My understanding is it's just a desire to do their own projects, and just kind of in their own style. It's not they're on very good terms from what I understand, and it's just again, watch Macbeth and Drive Away Dolls. These are the next two projects they wanted to do, and you'll be like, oh, that's really hard. You can't really square to that.
But yeah, I've had that Drive Away Dolls on my list for a while.
It's
honestly,
nutty, man. It's so
I love chocolate and I love peanut butter, but I like chocolate and peanut butter together better.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying. Like,
I understand that, but because Drive Away Dolls is like lesbian raising Arizona on LSD. So it's insane.
Sounds good to me.
It's a blast. But
recommendation number one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right,
crazy.
That sounds recommendation.
Voting time, Kyle.
Yeah, No Country for Old Men.
All right, Tom.
No Country. Coen Brothers.
All right, Andrew.
No Country.
Gabe.
Yeah, No Country.
All right. Directors Joel and Ethan Coen used a photograph of a brothel patron taken in 1979 as a model for Anton Chigurh's hairstyle.
For his hair.
When he first saw his new haircut, Javier Bardem said, "Oh no, now I won't get laid for the next 2 months." The Coens responded by happily high-fiving each other. Bardem's response meant Sugar's look was creepy as they hoped.
That's true.
His performance was so good that he probably didn't get laid for the next 2 years.
Probably.
I'm guessing that there were.
Was he married to?
Everybody has a thing. There's probably women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he married at that time? He's married to what's her name? I know her name.
While you think about that, Hell or High Water is dedicated to David John Mackenzie and Ursula Sybil Mackenzie, the parents of director David Mackenzie. Both died while he was making this film. You can also see references to them by their initials, along with the years showing up on certain license plates throughout the film, the years of their from birth to death.
That's so sad.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine like making and finishing a film during that. That would be tough.
By the way, Penelope Cruz, Gabe.
Yes. Tom got that. Yes, thank you, Tom.
Oh, I tried to slip it through you on message, so
I know.
So you could do it on Gay Gal credit. But thank you.
No, I should remember that.
You should. How dare you?
Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
Let's say I'm a fan.
Now,
just cut Gabe out.
Gabe, make sure to write down in your journal that Ben and Jen are no longer together for their second marriage. It's over.
Yep.
Oh.
They got
so
divorced
Ben is
again.
available. Is that what you're telling me?
Again,
Yep.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but since April, and
Nice.
they've officially filed now. So,
Yes.
yep.
We have spent too much time talking about this.
Yes.
Way too
Yeah,
much.
you
Yes,
guys.
we
You
are.
guys.
I was
know
trying
way
to make
more
a
about
I
joke.
it.
allotted 5 seconds, and we're way over.
All right, let's move on. Fourth final round overall.
So coming into this, so I saw No Country for Old Men when it came out, and I saw Hell or High Water probably a year after it came out. And I was and still am a huge fan of There Will Be Blood. It's one of my favorite movies. I think it's probably probably the best movie in the last 25 years. And so I really like No Country for Old Men, but I think the first time I watched it, I probably didn't invest enough into it. And so when No Country for Old Men went on and won the Best Picture over There Will Be Blood, I kind of put No Country for Old Men off to the side, and I didn't really want to recognize it for the awesome film that it is. And I think I'm really glad we got to come back and do it again for this episode. So I watched Hell or High Water first, and in watching, I was reminded by how great it was. I was like, oh, this is going to be such a great episode because Hell or High Water is really, really good. And if I remember correctly, No Country for Old Men did not move me that much. So then I watched No Country for Old Men, and it is a really, really great movie. And like I said earlier, it's a masterpiece. The script and the acting and the directing is one of those movies where everything just comes together. I don't think it's as good as There Will Be Blood. I'm not sure I'll ever believe that. But it's by far probably top 3 Coen Brothers movies, which says a lot from, two guys that are amazing. They're one of the best, probably the best one of the best directors we have out there. In my mind, when No Country for Old Men won, I felt like it was the Academy making up for Fargo, because I think Fargo, I always felt like the Academy wanted to give Fargo more than they did, and so they were always looking for that movie to, make up for it. And so No Country for Old Men came along, but the fact that No Country for Old Men is nearly as good as Fargo, if not better. So anyway, coming into this, that's kind of where I was coming from. And they are just really, they're exceptional movies. I always feel bad when we have 2 exceptional movies like this, and then one of them is just clearly above and beyond just the better film, and you can't really argue that. And I know that opinion is subjective and film criticism is objective, but there are, there is a set of criteria that defines what makes a good movie and separates it from a bad movie, and we talk about that every month. And this is like just a case where one checks all the boxes a lot better than the other. Well, just real quickly, music. I think we probably could have done a fifth area, a fifth round tonight, and we could have had Carter Burwell up against Nick Cave, because the music in these 2 movies is, when it comes to these Southwestern scores, Carter Burwell and Nick Cave are 2 of the best in the business too, and they're so much fun just to listen to. I know a couple of you guys listen to scores quite a bit. I don't typically listen to a lot of film scores day to day, but Carter Burwell and Nick are 2 that I like to put on. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much what I got. I didn't really talk too much about Hell or High Water, but it's really good too.
Yeah, these movies have a lot in common with kind of the way they're shot and the landscapes they're shot around. But No Country for Old Men has just exceptional cinematography. The Hell or High Water, I think if you're into probably like lesser known indie country kind of bands, you might get some joy out of that from their music, because they throw a lot of that in there. I'm having a hard time remembering much music in No Country for Old Men, if there was any. But yeah, the sound design in that film is great as well. And just, I think, yeah, we talk about sometimes we see good movies and they're just up against competition they can't overcome. And I would say the biggest knock against Hell or High Water is that it's going up against No Country for Old Men. So that's like its worst. That's its mountain that it can't get over, in my opinion. But against other movies, I think it would be, very, very good. I think it is a good movie. It's just, we're talking about it against what I consider a masterpiece. So I think that's where it's going to fall short. But I don't know. They're both really good movies and they're both enjoyable. I would rewatch them again. I think this is probably my sixth or seventh viewing of No Country for Old Men. It's the first time I've seen Hell or High Water, but I think they're both worth your time. They're both very much worth watching. So seek them out. Yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm out of things to say. Gabe, carry us for the next 9 minutes.
Well, I don't think I have to do the full 9. I could try, but as I alluded to in the previous category, I think one of the most outstanding things about No Country for Old Men is the sound design. And you mentioned that you don't remember a lot of music, and I think that's because there isn't a lot of music. And I think the sounds of nature, the sounds of the environment, really almost serve as the soundtrack to the movie. There's just so many great and subtle things in the sound design of No Country for Old Men that just really stand out. For instance, there's the scene where Josh Brolin is waiting in his hotel room for Javier Bardem to arrive. He knows he's there. He knows he's coming, and there's just this silence. And then you hear him approaching. You hear the boots on the floor, and you hear the little beeping of the transponder. And it's really subtle, but you can hear it, and you hear that transponder increasing in rate as he approaches the door. And it's those kinds of things. It's like, it's really subtle. It's not in your face, but it heightens the tension. It's the environment that provides the soundtrack to No Country for Old Men, and I've always appreciated that. That to me is also I love movie music. I think music really complements most movies, but in this case, it's part of that minimalistic kind of understated kind of filmmaking that the Coen brothers did on this film. There's not a lot of dialogue. There's not a lot of music. We are just in the moment. We are seeing and hearing what these characters are experiencing, and it's just really fantastic. Like, even just the wind, the sound of the wind in the desert is almost like a soundtrack for that movie. And I'm not sure that they got enough recognition for that aspect of their film. The sound design of that film is just fantastic.
Just say there were the colors of the wind.
What's that?
The colors of the wind.
Did I say colors? I don't know. The sound of the wind. It was. Yeah. The wind could have had a color. It would have been kind of all brown.
I agree with you. The one scene that particularly sticks out to me is when he's trying to pull the satchel through from the other room with the hook and the temp poles. And the gunfire goes off, and they're cutting between the two rooms, and they cut between gunfire and muffled gunfire, and it's perfectly in sync. And I watch stuff in surround sound, and they actually shift where the sound of the gunfire is coming from. So when you're in the room, it's up front and in close, and then when they shift to him, it goes to the surround channel, and it's a little bit muffled to make you really be immersed into that situation. And it was really well done. Like, they thought of that when they did the sound mix.
It's
I think that, to me, is the those special moments where you're like, God, that was good, man, that was just good.
Well, and
so I feel
there's so many scenes where, like, there's no dialogue and it's silent, but like what we're seeing and what we're hearing it means so much. Like, where at the beginning where he strangles that deputy or whatever, it's like there's no dialogue at all in that. It's the guy's talking to, I don't know, the sheriff or whatever briefly, but then just the visuals of that, the boots kicking on the floor and making those marks on the floor, and the sound of it, it's just like that's all we need to know what a struggle this was. It's just amazing.
It wasn't even just that. Like, as he's holding them, you see that they're basically, he's lying on top of them and he's holding them, and they're both looking up and kind of struggling. And as soon as he starts bleeding, you'll see Javier shift his body to the right, and he turns his head to the left to not get any blood on his face.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really interesting
He was really concerned. That character was really concerned with that. He didn't want to get blood.
Yes.
On him. What, for forensic reasons or otherwise, I don't know. But
yeah. It was I thought was really clever.
Yeah, I just felt like the sound design in No Country for Old Men was probably better than anything I've ever seen. Mostly because it was understated but meaningful.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. I would agree 100% with this.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing I like. I'm maybe kind of weird. I like the things where minimal dialogue, minimal sound effects. I'm totally into things like, I think another one that probably fits that bill might be Mad Max Fury Road, where the dialogue is relatively minimal, and the sound and that stuff is just really fantastic, and we show but don't tell. We see it, we see what's happening. We don't need to explain it too much. And that would be another kind of modern example I can think of that might fall in that category.
You grew up in the wrong era, Gabe.
What's that? What else what am I missing?
Well, I mean, back in the day, they used to have movies that didn't have sound.
Well, I'm old.
They were
enough.
real simple and real visual, super visual.
Right. Well, we've talked about a few of those. We've talked about there was a Charlie Chaplin one that we did. Yep. And I think I watched one in too early, a month early.
and sometimes sound effects were done in the theater while the people watched. So
right. New experience every time, depending on who was playing the piano. No, I'm old enough for that. I remember that. Back in the day.
Very good old man voice.
Thanks. It's not fake.
No.
This is what I really sound like.
Oh God.
Time travels next month.
Oh, time travel, yeah.
All right. You guys want to add anything else to overall? I believe you have discussed both of these films.
Mike, you'd be good in a
We've
Western.
exhausted the topic. Is that what you're saying?
I'll throw this out. With the rewatchability thing.
All right.
I think the No Country for Old Men has a lot of rewatchability. There's to find new things because there's so much great acting in it. You'll find new things every time you watch it. But if a gun to my head or cattle prod thingy, I would say that if I had to guess between now and the day I die, I will probably watch Hell or High Water more than No Country for Old Men. Yeah. Despite the fact that I think No Country for Old Men's the superior movie in almost every way, I think Hell or High Water has enough. It's a more entertaining movie. And now maybe that makes me a bad film snob, but I will probably watch Hell or High Water more. So I just thought I'd kind of turn the whole rewatchability thing on its head for a change.
Is there really a silencer for a shotgun?
Movie silencers are so inaccurate to real world.
Just curious.
There's no way it sounds that quiet, but it does look fucking cool.
Right.
100%. I just was curious if that was a real thing.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Oh God, I lost my list. Tom.
No Country for Old Men.
Andrew.
No Country for Old Men or Water. See, I was on the fence with that. No Country for Old Men.
Gabe?
Or Water.
No Country for Old Men.
And Kyle.
A quick Google search reveals silencers for shotguns are real, and one of the top results is No Country for Old Men. Is the silent shotgun just science fiction? So, in honor of that, I will vote for No Country for Old Men.
Hey, congrats getting on that FBI watch list, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy, I'm already on all of the lists.
That's true. You guys talked a lot about the music, which we usually do in our fourth round, but composer Carter Burwell's score for No Country for Old Men consists of only 16 minutes of music.
Yeah. There's like no music in it. And that probably half of that 16 minutes is the credits. That's the only time I remember like hearing music is during credits. Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
And I'm not complaining, but
Josh Brolin broke his shoulder in a motorcycle accident 2 days before getting the part in this film. In an interview, he recalled thinking, "Fucking shit. I really wanted to work with the Coens," as he flew over the car that hit him. His injury, however, turned out to be a non-issue since his character is shot in the shoulder very early in the film.
So it's method. That is super method.
Yeah, that is super method. He went out, got himself hit.
Yeah. I'm going to get shot in the shoulder. I better injure it.
Yes. Taylor Sheridan's uncle, McLennan County Sheriff Parnell McNamara, served as a consultant to Jeff Bridges on the shoot. McNamara had been a U.S. Marshal for over 30 years. And the final scene of Hell or High Water was shot on Chris Pine's last day on the film and Jeff Bridges' first day. It's the only scene the two share together in the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do the... Did you mention his 2.5 weeks?
No,
go
ahead.
Pine.
Oh, yeah, they shot all Chris Pine stuff in like 17 days.
Yeah, because he had to get to Star Trek. Yep. That's crazy.
That is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Guy's pro.
Maybe go back to the directing category and reevaluate.
I am going to do the maths, all the maths here. Why don't you guys start us off with recommendations? And Andrew, you are up first.
Crap. Okay. I'm going to mention a Western, but it's probably a more off-putting Western than most people would probably know. I don't think anybody has recommended it. At least I didn't see it in the sheet. I had to check really quick. But it is a humorous satire take of the Old West in a comedy. Has a fantastic musical score. There's some goofiness. It's dirty and raunchy, and it's pretty awesome. And that's A Million Ways to Die in the West. And it's the watching Neil Patrick Harris sing the Mustachio song is fantastic about the mustachery. So I highly recommend A Million Ways to Die in the West. It's a very satiric look at the Old West and very funny. So, yeah.
All right.
That's my recommendation.
Good recommendation. Thank you, Andrew. Gabe?
Well, both of these movies we watched were fairly bleak and had kind of maybe unexpected and unsatisfying endings to them. So I'm going to recommend another movie that is kind of the same. It's an old, I guess they consider it a spaghetti Western called The Great Silence. It's directed by a gentleman named Sergio Corbucci, and it's if you watch it, you will see where The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino came from. It's a Western in the cold, snow-covered mountains of Utah, and it's a bit of a slog at the beginning. There's some pretty rough cinematography and rough sound and dubbing at the beginning, but it picks up after that, and it's much more interesting. And there's some really beautiful cinematography in it at times. But it really has a non-traditional ending to it, and I think it kind of fits with what we watched for this episode. So if you care to, check out The Great Silence.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. Kyle.
So, keeping with my love of Cormac McCarthy, I'm going to recommend another adaptation of one of his works, a book that I absolutely love, directed by John Hillcoat, starring Viggo Mortensen, and it is The Road. I'm not going to lie and tell you it's a fun watch, but it is a great watch and an amazing book if you ever get a chance. So check out The Road.
All right. Good pick, Kyle. Tom.
I'm going to go with the cop route, and I'm going to recommend a show that me and my family have watched all summer long, and it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine with Andy Samberg. It is. We had never watched anything about before the summer started. We're like, this is our summer project. We're going to make it through the series. We just started season 7. It is so much fun. It's a really tight group of actors. You can tell they really have their comic timing down. I'm on season 7, and I think there's been one cast departure. Everyone else is still around from the pilot, which is rare to see. And it's funny, and the jokes come really fast, so you have to watch multiple times to get all the jokes. And the guest stars that they have on rivals The Simpsons in terms of how they're used and the people that they get in on the show. And it's it's so much fun. I just absolutely love it. So we love it so much that we went to New York City this summer, and we actually went to the 78th precinct where they shoot the exteriors. They shoot the show in LA, but we just stood on the corner where they set up the camera to shoot exteriors, or where they did, and took our picture out in front of the Brooklyn Nine-Nine building. So it's definitely recommended. Very funny show.
Nice.
Andre Braugher, so hilarious. You would never guess it, but he's so funny.
I thought you were going with Cop Rock.
Nope.
Well, when you said you're going the cop route, I was like, oh man, he's going to take mine. Mine's not really about the cops, but was it Gabe that talked about, or Andrew that talked about bleakness? I think it was Gabe that talked about bleakness.
I usually talk about that, yeah.
This series is pretty bleak as far as humanity is concerned, but it is so well acted, and it is very well written. And it's about the McCluskey family that are power brokers tackling themes of systematic racism, corruption, and inequality in Kingstown, Michigan, where the business of incarceration is the only thriving industry. And it stars Jeremy Renner, Hugh Dillon, and Toby Bamtifa. I hope I'm saying his name correctly, but he is my favorite character in the entire show. You need to check out Mayor of Kingstown. It was created by Taylor Sheridan and Hugh Dillon, and it is well acted, well written, and there are going to be times when you stop an episode at the end and you're like, oh my God, I hate everyone around me. It's very realistic. There is no, how do I put it? No satisfying end to certain things. It just ends and you're like, what the shit, with certain arcs. But that's what keeps bringing me back anyway. So check out Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount Plus, I believe. All right. Spoke the monkey. Find out who won.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is No Country for Old Men.
All right. Well, it was 14-2, and I believe most of you said multiple times that this score should not indicate the quality of Hell or High Water, and I would agree with you. You're talking about a very good movie, like Tom said, a very good movie going up against a masterpiece. Both of these films you need to go out and watch. I know most of the people listening to this have probably seen No Country for Old Men, but you should check out Hell or High Water if you haven't already.
And the Coen brothers remain undefeated.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a crossover with this, with Jeff Bridges being in the Coen brothers remake of True Grit.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
there was a bit of a crossover there.
Well, we would like it if you could leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. If you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. If you want to listen to an unedited version of the show, you can catch us live on Twitch whenever we record an episode, and we are getting better about getting the link and getting the date out so people can join us. In September, 2 thriller sci-fi films take to the ring as Primer takes on Coherence. For Tom, Kyle, Gabe, Andrew, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Can we do, like, just the sounds of the American West right now? Just like the
Yeehaw! Get him up, cowboy.
Somebody do some tumbleweed. You need a little tumbleweed. Yeah, the dogs. Perfect coyotes.
Double. Caw.
I'll get on back to the ranch now for nightfall. My wife gonna kick my ass.
Gunshot. Oh, I gotta put my silencer on.
Perfect. That's a perfect slice of the American West. I love it.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
Hey, it is Ryan Seacrest. There's something so thrilling about playing Chumba Casino. Maybe it's the simple reminder that with a little luck, anything is possible. ChumbaCasino.com has hundreds of social casino-style games to choose from with new game releases each week. Play for free anytime, anywhere for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.